The Tales series has been a staple in the JRPG genre for a long time now, with plenty of entries to garner a wide swath of fans. It's finally back with Tales of Arise and promises to be the next step in the franchise. Arise has come down into our homes. Has it risen to the occasion? Or fallen on its face? Let's take a look. One of the main pillars for Tales of Arise's production was a renewed investment into presentation. This new focus has paid dividends because it clearly is the best the series has ever looked. There's a huge amount of detail in the characters and world that will be pretty impressive to anyone familiar with previous entries. I was really impressed each time I took a second to look at the scenery. Needless to say, the visuals really knocked it out of the park. There's been a mix-up in the music department as well. While it still has plenty of the large sweeping fantasy melodies that it's known for, they really seem to stand out more this time. Before, these melodies sounded mostly the same between games for me, but now I can say that there really were some standout tracks. I think the added variety for different moments really solidified the music for me.
An opponent like this should be easy.
The voice work is impressive too. Across the board, a lot of the performances are really solid, and there are only a handful of hammed up lines, but it kind of felt like that was intentional.
You talk big, but don't you think you're forgetting something? Of your precious resistance groups, whether the Silver Swords or any others, none have ever dealt a blow to Renan domination. In each and every realm, the story is the same. Until you...
Story is probably the biggest improvement overall, however. Tales is no stranger at sprinkling in a heavy topic or two into its narrative, but they never lean on it as much as they do here. Tales decides to take a chance with it and go with a story that deals with slavery, occupation, equality, and more. It doesn't give definitive answers to these topics, which, honestly, I really liked about it. I was quite surprised that the game has enough respect for the themes to not walk itself into a corner, but it also keeps things well within the usual JRPG tropes of the Tales series. When you're not deposing various rulers, the game keeps you entertained with character interactions. These can be serious or funny moments meant to give more info on the cast and their mindset, and just some general information about the world at large. These are done in the usual methods of cutscenes and optional skits. But if you really want to get the most out of the game, you're going to have to sit through a lot of the skits. Thankfully, they're not very long.
Let me go! Let me go!
It's enough, Kisara!
Let go!
Stop!
I'll tear him apart! I swear
Are you trying to ignore your brother's dying wish?
The characters here are also very well done. Each has their own trials and tribulations to overcome, which adds some much appreciated depth to the cast. Our main two protagonists definitely get the lion's share of development, but there's still some love tossed around the cast evenly. Needless to say, I really enjoyed the story here. The overall theme of the story was right in my wheelhouse, and I liked that they didn't try to make some kind of definitive answer for the problems that came about as the journey continued. The characters openly admit of not being sure what to do many times, which I have a lot of respect for. Instead of having a peppy, things will work out because evil's defeated, they have an oddly refreshing take on things in the form of saying like, well, I'm not really sure, more often than not.
But for now, I'm going to follow Alphen and see what happens next.
Where does that drawbridge connect to?
No idea, but I've seen it get low.
Gotta break through!
Where are you going? Whoa! Quit staring and concentrate on the fight.
Combat is as fast and furious as ever, and equally just as responsive. Its brand of action-packed combat has never been flashier as well. It plays out as series veterans might expect, with a blend of normal attacks and special moves, with a variety of extra mechanics stacked on top of things to keep it interesting. Being able to link all these mechanics together is key to success as expected. Thankfully, the difficulty can be changed on the fly if things are getting a little too difficult for you. Using boost attacks to counter certain enemy types, triggering huge team-up attacks between members, and a new take on healing make for a combat system that's both familiar enough to be called Tales, but still unique. I personally really love the big team-up attacks after an enemy is staggered. These super flashy but fast animations never got annoying even in an RPG setting. It's got a combat system that's really fun and rewarding to play when it all flows together. I did have a point of contention with the combat, however. There's a big emphasis on dodging and countering at precise moments, and while this is nothing new, it was hard to do on the fly. For one thing, the dodge can't be done mid-attack. It felt weird at first, but eventually I got used to it. This is more annoying with how fast some of the attacks are. Second, the effects in combat are so flashy that it can feel almost impossible to see what you should be trying to dodge sometimes. It does add difficulty, and it is rewarding to dodge multiple chains in a row for a boss battle or something like that, but it felt like I had to be a little too deliberate to use this dodge. It was never hard, but it never felt as smooth as something like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta, which is similar in effect. Side quests are fairly short affairs that can be done at your leisure. They reward items, money, and precious SP. They rarely were a hassle to do thanks to fast travel, but I admit not all are super compelling to do. But there are some interesting ones. Once you hit the back half of the game, however, it goes full bore with optional side quests. Most of these involve secret mini-bosses or super bosses to fight through, and there are a few dungeons to explore as well. They can put up quite a challenge if you're not prepared, but the various rewards make them worth doing. My only gripe about these late game quests was that some of them have large, unexpected spikes in difficulty, or level gaps associated with them that can only be apparent once you actually get into them. Outside combat, you'll spend your time navigating the world. There's a lot of time spent in more story-focused areas, but the game does let you off the leash to explore hidden areas and nooks and crannies to find goodies regularly. Gathering items, cooking, and crafting all return with their own unique quirks this time around. Either way, I really enjoyed the amount of content the game has outside of the story. It leaves a lot of the more involved things to the end of the game, thankfully, so it keeps the story at a brisk pace for most of the runtime, while also adding a lot to do once everything is starting to come to a close. As you can probably tell, I really enjoyed my time with Tales of Arise. The new look the game sports is awesome from start to end. The characters are all enjoyable to experience. The story takes some deeper steps into a more serious side of things without tripping all over itself. And the combat is full of interesting mechanics that work well. It definitely has a few quirks that might not be to everyone's liking, and those who are avid Tales detractors won't be swayed by this new game. But in my opinion, I do indeed think this is the best the Tales series has ever been. And honestly, for the first time, it makes me hopeful for what the Tales series could do in the future.
The Earth pulse! Tectonic fission!
Hey, thanks for watching this review. Hit the thumbs up, like, sub, follow the Twitter, and maybe even stop by my Twitch channel where you can see me play games like this live and more. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.